Hello. I'm Mary from Kevin and Mary. And this will be my last speech as Joint General Secretary of the National Education Union. And I'm not crying. So I hope you will forgive me if it is a little personal. So I qualified as an English teacher in 1982, 3 years into Margaret Thatcher and her Conservative government's first term. Keith Joseph was Secretary of State for Education, and my experience of teaching in the 1980s was one of struggle and hardship. My second school was in the poorest part of the local authority, and pupils came to school hungry, and in winter they came to school cold because of Margaret Thatcher's austerity policies, which were making poor parents poorer. I taught in a school now rebuilt under Labour's Building Schools for the Future, which had been opened in the 1950s. It used a lot of concrete, including a painted pressed concrete floor, which was in an advanced state of disintegration. My classroom had a widening gap measured every 3 months because they were afraid that the classroom would collapse between two outside walls. Ivy grew through the gap. The rain came in, the damp came in, the windows were rotting, the notice boards were riddled with asbestos. Teacher pay had fallen in real value, and as a newly qualified teacher and as a member of the NUT and a school rep, I struck for fair pay for teachers. I got used to marching in London, feeling the comradeship of my fellow teachers, striking for dignity and for the work we did to be recognised and rewarded. And it's funny, isn't it, how the past repeats itself? Because here we are again, with another Conservative government, 13 years in office. Here we are again, as we were after Thatcher and Major's governments, left with a crisis in public services, a crisis born out of neglect, out of mismanagement, and, I'm afraid, out of a disgust that Tory politicians have for people who work in the public services. The crisis is all around us. People are walking away from public service. 40,000 vacant nursing posts, doctor vacancies, 9,000 doctor vacancies, 8,000 social work vacancies. And in schools, teacher vacancies are 93% higher than before the pandemic and 37% higher than at this point last year. You know, the government, at least the last time I checked, the government does not have the power to command graduates to work in public services. Now, this may have changed. Given the government's Rwanda policy, I wouldn't put it past them. But you can't force graduates to work in public service. You have to do something to make being a nurse, a doctor, and a teacher an attractive choice for graduates. It comes to something that even Amanda Spielman, in her last report as Chief Inspector, has actually noticed that there is a workforce crisis in our schools. And even Amanda Spielman has noticed, because she can ignore no longer the fact that the children are bearing the brunt of that crisis. Children with special educational needs not getting the support that they need. Children who are so vulnerable that they are assigned social workers, meeting those social workers on Teams calls because they are employed by an agency and they may live hundreds of miles away from the homes and the schools of the children they are meant to be protecting. CAMHS waiting times lasting months. Children and young people with severe mental health problems are not making the cut for a CAMHS appointment because the service is completely overloaded. So I've never said this before, and I'll never say it again, but Amanda Spielman is right. There is a workforce crisis in our schools, and children are bearing the brunt of that crisis. But, conference, it's not just children, shameful though that is, that are bearing the brunt of the workforce crisis. It's those who stay in our schools fighting the good fight, the teachers and the leaders and the support staff who remain in the profession, trying to support children and young people, trying to teach them and help them to learn. They bear the brunt of the departure of their colleagues who leave the profession exhausted. It makes those who remain, their work even harder. It makes them even more exhausted. So many schools are running on skeleton staff, unable to recruit. When they advertise for teaching posts, there are no candidates applying. Schools losing support staff because they earn more stacking shelves in the supermarket. Now, Gillian Keegan. Gillian is the latest in a long line, 5 this year, of Tory Secretaries of State for Education who seem to be only tangentially connected with the reality of what's going on. I have what's going on in schools at the end of that sentence, but I think I'll end with of what's going on. Gillian Keegan is airily unconcerned about all of this. When Kevin and I, in negotiations, showed her the evidence of teacher flight from the profession, she dismissed it with a wave of her hand and said, there's a shortage of workers throughout the economy. Teaching was not a special case. It's not as bad as you say it is. Gillian, I have to tell you, you are deluded. You are living in a fantasy world. I would like to live in that world too, but I suddenly can't get there. Gillian, you are Secretary of State for Education. It's your job to ensure there are enough teachers and leaders and support staff in our schools. It's your job to make the strongest case to the Treasury that education needs funding so that our schools can recruit and retain the teachers, leaders and support staff who provide the education for our children. And it's your job to make the working lives of teachers and leaders better so that they are willing to stay in the profession. So I say to you, Gillian, do your job. Because the anger that the profession feels, Gillian, is not down to Kevin and Mary. Gillian, it was not Kevin and Mary's strikes. 50,000 teachers on the 15th of March, marching through the centre of London, was not down to me and Kevin. It was down to the teachers who did the strikes, who struck and marched for their profession and marched for the children they teach. Now, in between the selfies, I talked to members on the march, and they are clear, things can't carry on like this. And marching with their union, with the National Education Union, collectively they are saying enough is enough. Pay our profession properly for the vital, essential work it does, and fund education so that we can do the job we know needs doing. Let us build an education system fit for the 21st century, not on artificial intelligence, not on state-controlled curriculum materials. Let us build an education system that is funded so that children can fulfil their potential to learn. Let's build an education system that is not starved of teachers and leaders and support staff. Let us build schools which are not dilapidated and dangerous. Surely these demands are reasonable. What parent does not want these things? And it is because parents want these things that the government has not been able to drive a wedge between teachers and parents. And conference, if we are to win this dispute, and win it we must keep parents on side. They must believe, because it's true, that we are fighting for their children's right to education. They must know that in fighting for our profession, we are acting in their children's interest. We must not lose that trust. Now, I also want to say something about Bousted, because it's been a bit of a thing of mine. Bit of a thing for a long time. When I began my critique of Bousted over 2 decades ago, it was a bit of a lonely place to be amongst the education commentariat. My firm belief that Bousted was then, and is now, an invalid and unreliable regulator whose inspection judgments are unreliable, dependent on the team who arrived at the school gate, that was seen as a bit out there. It wasn't respectable to talk about Bousted in this way. I was an unreasonable polemicist. But the ground has been moving under Bousted's feet for some years now, and has been the work of many like-minded people and organisations. But it took the untimely and tragic death of a head teacher, Ruth Perry, to cement in the public mind that we cannot carry on. We cannot carry on with Bousted. So today, I make a public plea to those school leaders who work as Bousted inspectors, and I ask them simply to stop. Yes. Concentrate on your school. Refuse to be part of an inspection team until we have an accountability system which commands respect and which supports schools to improve, as inspection systems do throughout the developed world. Only in England now do we have such a punitive and toxic inspectorate, one which drives teachers and leaders away from the profession, one which makes teachers and leaders' lives a misery. Surely, conference, it is not unreasonable to want these things. And now I'm coming to an end. So I want to finish with some personal things as well. The first thing I want to do is thank the colleagues I've worked with, Niamh, Rachel, Amanda, and I particularly want to say Amanda is retiring in November and has worked for the union for 30 years, and I want to thank her for her dedicated service. I want to wish Daniel every success as General Secretary of the National Education Union. But I want to finish with a bit of a real friendship, which is 5 years ago, after long and detailed negotiations, ATL, the union which I was proud to lead as General Secretary since 2003, and the NUT amalgamated to form the National Education Union, and Kevin and I became joint General Secretaries. And everyone warned that it wouldn't work. Everyone said that mergers were brutal, that it would take 10 to 15 years for the NEU to perform, never mind Storm. And conference, look at us now. A union with over 500,000 members, the third largest in the TUC, the union which has the largest social media footprint of any union, which regularly speaks directly to thousands of members, hundreds of thousands of members, through its Zoom meetings. A union which had 50,000 members marching through London, standing up for their profession. A union which campaigns on the issues that members care about, on pay and workload, on child poverty, on inspection, on assessment, on health and safety in the workplace. Where our members are, so are we, because we are the NEU. We are magnificent. We are magnificent. And throughout those 5 years, my constant professional companion and my real-life friend has been Kevin. And I am resigned to the fact that NU members, I don't have an independent existence. It's Kevin and Mary. Kevin and Mary texts, Kevin and Mary emails, and Kevin and Mary videos. On the marches, if I had £1 for every member who asked me, "Are you Mary from Kevin and Mary?" I would have collected a small fortune. I want to say that working with Kevin has been wonderful. I have learned so much from him. How to campaign, how to engage with members, how to keep at it through thick and thin to convince others of your case. The difference between the median and the mean. How to interpret evidence in scientific papers, which was essential during COVID. Kevin has been a great teacher to me. He is a great friend to me. He lives his ideals of anti-sexism and anti-racism, of equality for all, every single day. And he has always treated me as a valued equal. And together, we have been united to lead the NEU. If we've disagreed, we've done so in private. No one has been able to put a cigarette paper between us in public. Kevin has supported me in the causes which are dear to me. I hope that I have supported him too. He is a great friend, a great leader, a great campaigner for education and social justice, and it has been a privilege to work with him. I'm going to stop now. I will miss you all. I will miss you all. Even the ones where sometimes I have been a bit ratty. I will miss you all. There are things to do with the rest of my life, difficult though that seems now. There will be life beyond the NEU. So thank you. I want to start by thanking you for your work on behalf of your union, on behalf of your members. Never forget that the NEU is member-led. Be proud of your union, because I am. Thank you.